This is one of those times where I think the game itself is like here, but my opinion's over here. Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. And today I'm reviewing Almanac the Dragon Road from Colossal Games designed by Scott Almes. And this is a worker placement storybook, which I'm pretty sure is the only one of its kind, but I could be wrong about that. This is a worker placement storybook adventure game in which you're going to be placing out your workers on various locations in order to get the benefits therein. But then, when you're done doing that, you're going to go ahead and bid for who's going to be the caravan leader or whatnot. And then from there, you're going to go ahead and choose the next location. Are you going to the Cloud Monastery or are you going to Razorbeak Canyon? Because I'm going to go ahead and choose Razorbeak Canyon, and now we're over here. Now we go through a whole new adventure page, again placing out all our workers one at a time, going through all the various locations, each page having its own slight adjustment to the rules of how you place. In this case, in order to place on a middle spot, you have to have connecting people on the bridge. So if I go here, you can go here now. Before that, you couldn't have. You go over here, someone else goes over here, and I can go ahead and pop in there, and now someone can go ahead there. You can start getting to the middle spaces once somebody else gets there. Now page 2 is done, you again vote on the caravan leader, and now we're going to the Sylph Runes on page 6. On page 6 over there, we're going to head to the Sylph Runes. We're going to go through the Sylph Runes, and when we're done with the Sylph Runes, which we're going to go ahead and choose a spot, and again slowly spread out from that spot, again that adjacency puzzle to a degree, we're now going to head to the Neverwood. We're choosing the Neverwood, although I'm skipping parts of the game, we'll come back to it. I'm just giving you a feel for what this game does. In the Neverwood, which I actually haven't played with this page, I have not played with all these pages, like 17 different pages. In the Neverwood, you're going to go through this encounter, and then you go to the next location. All in all, you're going to have a total of 6 locations that you're going through, and then you start with the same page every single time. You end with one of 2 pages, and the pathway you take along the rest of the road is, well, variable. You have a whole crossing, branching pathway of how you can progress, but what are you doing in this game and why? Well, ultimately, you're trying to get as many points as possible, and points are primarily going to come through being the best merchant you can be. That means being efficient with your caravan, with gathering goods that you can sell at a high price point, with getting various bonuses from various locations you'll go, especially those final 2 pages when you have different options to get a bunch of extra points. So, what can you do over here? Well, standard actions in this game are going to be going to any one of these locations that have these symbols for the goods, gathering those goods, the specific goods shown over there, and loading it into your caravan in the 3 slots. Now, eventually you might run out of space in your caravan before you have the opportunity to sell them, which is why it's always helpful to go ahead and grab one of those caravan options where you can buy one of the available caravans. These will be restocked every single page. You pay the amount of money shown and the specific goods shown, and now you can add a caravan to your cart. Although if we specifically, let's say if we grab this one over here, if we add this caravan to our caravan, then we'll go ahead and we'll get a defense token, which will defense token over here is the shield symbol over here. We're going to add one of our workers from outside the supply. We now have an extra worker, which means we are placing more workers than everyone else is, at least until they get more caravans. And we also have more supplies for goods as well as the points shown here. That's why you want more caravans. More caravans equals more workers. Not always. This one holds 4 spots and is worth 18 points, but doesn't give you any workers, so that's a trade-off. You have to decide what you want from that. But you're going to go ahead, you're going to gather new caravans. You're also going to go to the door location, which is a few options on them. You can go ahead and you can take any one good. You can sell any good type for 3 money. Or you can gather a shield token, which will be helpful on some of the encounters you'll have, and is also worth a point. Additional options you have is you can go over here to fulfill a contract. You're going to start the game with some contracts, and you have the opportunity to pick up more as the game goes on. Now, what's nice about the contracts is they're a little pick up and deliver adjacent. They're going to require specific goods that you need to trade in, and then once you do so, you're going to get a chunk of points at the end of the game. Points, by the way, that you will lose in case you don't complete that contract. So you do want to consider that's a big point trade-off. That's a 64 point swing. I highly recommend getting that contract completed. But additionally, you'll get an ongoing ability from those contracts. This one is, after you gain at least 1 blue good from a gain goods action, gain 1 extra blue good. So you can be a prime merchant of all the blue goods. I assume they have some meaning in terms of what the goods are, but I don't know what they are. But you can be the prime merchant of blue goods if you get that card. So all the contracts, if you complete them, or the earlier you complete them, the more of an ongoing benefit you have from them. And then you can go to any of these locations to sell specific goods. Whenever you see the sell action, you can sell all of that good color for that amount. And this is where the game gets interesting. Well, one of many places where the game gets interesting, because when you go to the next location, in addition to being a specific way that location operates, there's also an economy for each location. This shows you that green goods are going to be more valuable at Razorbeak Canyon than yellow, then red, then blue. And over here at the Cloud Monastery, blue, red, yellow, green. So they have different orders as far as what type of sell actions you'll have. You might find a sell 6 for blue if we visit the Cloud Monastery. Let's see what happens when we go to the Cloud Monastery. We have over here, we have a we don't have, there we have 4. Sell for 4. So it's only 4 over here. They do get more expensive as the game progresses, but you'll have different economies as far as which goods are worth more at different locations. Additionally, before you go to the next location, and you're going to go to the next location once all players have placed all their workers, so every single time you have workers, you're placing them out all again, which effectively means you have 6 rounds of worker placement, each round taking place in a new location, and then the amount of workers you have will vary as you upgrade and add more throughout the course of the game. But additionally, when you get to the next location, you're also going to have an encounter card. We have 5 encounters here for each of the between location options, although there are a whole lot more in the box. You just randomly select a bunch and you go through them. We'll go through encounter A over here, which is the chirping of birds suddenly gives way to horns. A traveling band marches down the path in front of your caravan. A short respite of music and relaxation sounds wonderful, but it also offers you an intriguing chance to join the show. Now, before you go to this location, you're going to be bidding on who's going to be the guide leader. That person both chooses the location you're going to, which could matter if they have specific goods they want, but also they get to make the choice of whatever's on this card, and they have to make that bid before knowing what this card will be. This card, Jigoff. The guide rolls a 6-sided die and places a worker on the corresponding number space below. The guide must re-roll 6s. Roll to determine the strength of your jig. Then if you're stronger than the guide, you gain 3 gold. If you're weaker than the guide gains 3 gold. So the guide's gonna have an initial kind of bet placeholder, and everyone can bid to go higher or lower, giving the guide the potential opportunity to earn as much as, well, I guess the players times 3 gold. That's how much you could potentially win. But either way, these encounters are going to give you different options, including, in some cases, you'll have specific fight encounters. That's where your shields are going to come into play, because you have the opportunity to fight things, chasing them off, and earning large rewards in some of those encounters, but not all. You're going to go through that process again and again until you eventually hit the very end of the scenario, where you'll go to one of these locations, either the Dragon City or either the Dockside Arcade or the Courtyard Markets, because you're slowly making your way to Dragon City. It's just a question of which area of the city you end up in as your final destination. Each of them giving you a slightly different way to convert things, the same way the entire game has done until now, and that's basically what you get for Almanac the Dragon Road. The game is all about the uniqueness of the locations. It's all about taking different options, different pathways, each game page giving you a different way to go through a fairly simple worker placement engine, but a very compelling one because of the fact that when you play this game for the first time, there's going to be like 12 pages you never get to see. You're going to start going through this, you're going to start seeing the locations, and you're going to pass by all these options. That first time in that first page where you choose between Cloud Monastery and Razor Beak Canyon, the other one you don't get to see until you play this game again, which means when you play the Dragon Road, Almanac the Dragon Road, you are constantly being teased with all the things you can't engage with as much as the things you can't engage with. And with that, let's dive into the review, starting with ease of play. The game is incredibly easy to dive into. The rulebook is very clear, very short. It's basically worker placement. If you understand worker placement, you know 95% of what you need to know here. You have workers, you place them down specific zones, you get those actions, everything's shown here on your player aid over here, so you have all the locations. It's basically gather goods, put them on your caravan, buy more caravans, cash in contracts, rinse and repeat. Each page has a slight tweak to the rules, a new adjustment, some new options you can go, a little bit of a push your luck puzzle, a little bit of a placement puzzle, different options as far as how the game progresses, some gambling, some betting, different options on each page that slightly adjust the core puzzle, but there are minor rules tweaks. Every time you hop to a new page, you're talking about 30 seconds to a minute tops of new rules for everyone, and obviously the more you play this game, the less that has to be explained because, well, you know it the next time. Well, it depends when the next time is. As far as player count is a 2 to 4 player game. I have played this game at 3 and 4 players. I largely prefer it at 3 because of the fact that the game does not seem to adjust, and the game does not adjust any of the worker placement spots around the fact that you'll have variable number of players, and so that means that some things in the game, contracts and caravans, which are already limited enough, those things get even more restrictive at 4 players. The race to sell goods, that's a different puzzle that I kind of enjoy. We all want the same spots, and we're all trying to fight for them, and I get that. But when it comes to the contracts, which I already feel are limited to begin with, and when it comes to the caravans, if you're playing a 4-player game and 2 people in round 2 have 4 workers and 2 people do not, it's already punishing enough. When you have 3, it kind of works to a certain degree because you'll catch up sooner or later, but the more players you have, the fewer caravan growth you'll have and the less actions you'll have across the course of the game. I like it at 4, don't get me wrong, but I definitely strongly prefer it at 3 players. As far as what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking. To begin with the storybook. And mainly the storybook. The fact that you have an adventure here, an adventure of pages that you're going through, each one giving you a different puzzle, is so compelling. I haven't even played them all yet because of the fact that when I've gone through this game, sometimes we try new pathways, but pathways converge, and so we end up touching the same maps again and again. There's 2 or 3 pages I haven't even played amongst this book, and I'm eager to dive into them so that I can finally get those games played. Each of the pages is a slightly different puzzle. The pyramid placement of the Emperor Sands. The one of my favorite ones is the breathing. Oh, Rivertown Landing is fantastic, as you have to place further down. This is a game system you see in Agizia, which is a totally different worker placement game, and they give you a taste of Agizia in Rivertown Landing. We have the Sibilant Salt is phenomenal, as you have this currency of air that you have to spend. The deeper you go, the more air you have to spend. It's its own little puzzle adjusting to it. The charm of this game, the charm that it gives you through the storybook worker placement, is combining an incredibly simple worker placement mechanic that is not overly convoluted with the charm of different pages and different adventures and the procedural aspect of choosing which page to go through. This game is dripping in charm. It is simple. It is not overly, complex in terms of the strategy. So it's not like a heavy strategy game, but it's one that really overwhelms you with the combination of simplicity, accessibility, variability, just absolute charm. I'm going to use that word a lot throughout this review because I am charmed by this game. Every page with its own different rule set, every page with its own adjustment, every page with a different economy, and how you're mindful of the fact that, like, when I play this game, to give you a context of how charmed I am by it, when I play this game and I know that I should go to Horizon Isles because I have more red, but there's a big part of me that still wants to go to Vineland Tract because I haven't played that one. And so I kind of actually want to play against my own interests just to explore what this game is offering, because I like that sense of adventure. I like the sense of exploration. I like that storybook guiding aspect of a worker placement storybook adventure game, which is not a terminology that I'm used to seeing. But then past that, the game also gives you opportunity for big moves. While the game is not complex, I didn't say there weren't opportunities to have phenomenal moves. There are times in this game where you'll build the right caravan, you'll load it up with like 11 yellow, and you'll have that perfect moment in the perfect position where you can trade in those yellows for like 9 points apiece, and you can cash in big. You can sweep with 100 points, but that's not enough to win, because winning scores in this game have generally been 300 points plus, at least for our group, and so you can get both big moves without feeling like those big moves are inherently going to win you the game. They'll give you an edge, to be sure, but there's a lots of points to go around this game, and those points only get more and more certain, more and more, larger as the game progresses, as you get towards the end. And then the encounter system and the bidding for leader gives you another tough element. That aspect of wanting to go to one location over the other, of wanting to make the choice on these encounter cards. Each of these encounter cards offers you choice, and the fact that players will walk in wanting to spend like 2-3 money, but as you go through the encounters, you'll see that opportunities and the gains you can get by being the guide are often worth bidding for it, are often worth fighting for the choice and the agency of where you go, as well as to be the caravan leader, to be the guide as you go through the next encounter. This game is, I'm going to say it again, it's got a lot of charm. As far as what I don't like in the game, few small things, but I already touched upon some of them. I feel like new contracts are rare. This symbol over here that gives you new contracts, it's not present on a lot of pages, or I should say it's very infrequently present. We have one over here, that's one the whole page. We have one on the whole page. We have one on the whole page. Contracts are incredibly rare. Caravans are rare-ish, but I think that by the time you get 2 or 3 pages into the game, you already have gotten enough of your caravan moving that players don't feel as drained on the caravans. The contracts, you kind of feel like you have to struggle to get them the entire game, which isn't necessarily a problem if you aren't focusing on the contracts. If you're focusing more on your caravan, of building out your caravan, of just selling as many goods as possible, you don't need the contracts. But if you try to focus on the contract route, the game doesn't support that quite as much, because the game doesn't give you that opportunity to give contracts, to the point that we've debated house ruling that when you go to the store location, you can pay 5 money or something like that to get a contract, because this store is kind of a jack of all trades, and the idea of giving it a contract economy to the game does have an appeal, because again, we've just found that if you want to heavily dive down the contract route, the game doesn't allow you to actually explore that. And then secondly, I wish the game had more of a start and end game variability. While the game is very variable, the game is exactly the same every time you start this out. You always start with the outpost. I wish they had given us 2 or 3 starting options, so you don't have to go through playing the same simplified page every single time before spreading out, before going to different locations. Similarly with the end game, you always have 1 of 2 end games. I wish there were a bit more end games, because when I play this game, the start and the end always feel very familiar. It's the inner pages that are where I get the most sense of adventure, the most sense of exploration, and I wish the game had given me a bit more of that at the start and end of the game. And then lastly, I wish combat played a bigger part. Combat, or not specifically combat, but your shield strength of your caravans. There's an economy of your shield strength, of how you gather caravans that will give you shield strength. This will give you no shield strength, that will give you 2 shield strength. When you go to that door location, you can grab one of these, that will give you another 2 shield strength and a point. But the amount of times you actually have encounters, or the statistical chances of building up your caravan around a particular approach that may or may not ever result in you using that approach. Even if you find an encounter with enemies that deal with strength, even then, it often goes through a progression order of taking down one person, then the next person, then the next, which means you may never have that opportunity to fight the dragon with that caravan that you've built up. I wish the game had given you more opportunities to take advantage or to utilize your shield strength so that what is currently a very strong side mechanic, I wish it were actually an actual mechanic as opposed to the thing that is generally not worth investing in. I don't know how offhand. It could be anything from giving you more locations where you have to have a certain strength in order to even go there, but I just wish there was more interweavingness or more importance to the strength of your caravan, because right now I feel it's an underutilized mechanic. As far as I can see others not liking, it's on the lighter side. This game is definitely on the lighter side, which is not inherently a con. It's just a question of whether this game is right for you or not. This game is definitely a lighter experience. For me, it's about the exploration, the different pages, the different opportunities, the constant exploration. Again, playing this game multiple times and I still haven't seen all the pages, I still have the sense of wanting to dive in just so I can try those 2 or 3 pages left. But it is a lighter game. If you don't like lighter games, if you don't like worker placement, if you don't like any of that, this may not be a fit for you. As far as final thoughts on Almanac the Dragon Road, I'm giving this one a 4 to 5. Although it's not based purely on the mechanics alone. The mechanics alone, like I said already, are on the lighter side, and I have some complaints around some of them. Elements of them that I feel are not as fully meaningful or impactful or balanced, or different complaints like that. I always hesitate to talk about balance, but because you'd have to play a game a whole lot of times for that to be a real critique, but it feels like elements of the game could have been more streamlined, play tested, or something. I'm always hesitant, but that's my personal feeling from having played the game. But the actual sense of exploration is huge. The charm, again, I'll use that word, is huge. This game is so compelling and so enjoyable. It's become, like almost overnight, it's become one of my go-to gateway games in the sense that the mechanics are simple. The game is easy to teach. It gives you a degree of tableau building in your caravan. It gives you simple worker placement with simple to understand consequences. It gives you a sense of adventure with the encounter cards. It gives you an element of bidding with going for the guide. And it gives you that sense of every page adjusting the mechanics around how you place, that sense of restriction around how you place your workers. This game manages to put a lot of game elements into it while also being incredibly accessible, incredibly variable, and giving you a reason to want to dive back in just so you can continue to explore what this game has to offer. To the point that I'm already happy that they have Almanac the Crystal Peaks, I believe it's called, was a Kickstarter that launched or funded a year ago or something like that. I don't know. There's another version of this game is what I'm trying to say. There's another version of this game that's going to be coming out. Rest assured I'll be picking that up as soon as I can, because this game is absolutely charming, and I'm very, very curious what changes were made to the Crystal Peaks. What differences are, mechanically speaking, how is it the same, how is it different? I don't know. I just know that I want to see more storybook games that are not just dungeon crawlers. I want to see more worker placement storybook games. This, to me, was a taste of something that I didn't even know I wanted, and I adore it. As far as other game recommendations, I generally try to give similar-ish things when I give game recommendations, but there are no other storybook games that aren't dungeon crawlers that I know of. I'm sure they exist, I just don't know what they are. But I'll give you 2 other games, as far leaning heavily into the mechanics that we have here, worker placement and pick up and deliver. As far as pick up and deliver, Istanbul is going to be a great Gateway Plus game that gives you an element of pick up and deliver as you wander around a board that is different every time you play, so you do have that sense of exploration and adventure, and you're trying to go ahead and gather goods so that you can sell them, trade them, and turn them into points or money or different things. Slightly reminiscent to what's going on here, but a whole different game. And then if you want to level it up a notch, but you are addicted to, charm and all those things, then Everdell will give you worker placement with, well, a whole lot of charm baked in into a much, much tighter, much meatier experience, one that comes across as cute, but is significantly more than what Almanac the Dragon Road is giving you. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you found this video helpful, and as always, have a good one.